Right, good evening everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay. This is my second YouTube video. I had mentioned in my previous video that y'all remember that was jumping around and bouncing, and y'all probably threw up, the 8 people that watched that video. This video is going to be stationary. This is a really weird angle, not because it's my best angle. I have this angle specifically for privacy reasons. I'm at one of my various workplaces this evening, and I got a little bit of downtime, and I wanted to do kind of a budget video. This is going to be really boring, y'all, so if you're looking for action, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you, go ahead and X out. The purpose behind the bus build, you can kind of see it in the subject heading of the YouTube page, Country Bussin', but I kind of wanted to do a bus build for the last few years, and the death of my father, the unexpected death of my father in 2020, really kind of put things in perspective for me from a if not now when kind of standpoint. I know that sounds cliche as hell. I'm not a sentimental person, or I'm not trying to, you know, tug on anyone's heartstrings, but my dad and I were very, very close. We were very close. He was a good man, and he worked his ass off his whole life. Always respected him for that. He was a man's man, and he unexpectedly dropped dead right before he was going to get any retirement. So he paid into the system for 43 years, and he did not enjoy a single penny of that. As morbid of a person as I am, I really saw him realistically having 10 good quality years of hunting and fishing. That was his thing. I don't hunt or fish. I grew up hunting and fishing. I'm a country boy and all that, but I just don't really care to go fishing and hunting anymore. I mean, I kind of got it out of my system. But my dad lived and breathed hunting and fishing, and he went and ran his hog traps, and he cut deer paths and all that. So when I lost my father, it kind of kicked me in the gut, because this bus build was something that I always said, you know what, one day, maybe when I'm 55 or 60, you know, I've saved up money, blah, blah, blah. You know what, y'all? Someday never freaking comes. Someday never comes, and nothing is promised. Tomorrow's not promised. This life is very finite, and that is as deep as I'm going to get into that. But bottom line is, losing my father kind of put things in perspective to me, in that, hey, it's time to do this. It's time to paint or get off the ladder. So I decided to paint. So I started looking, and the bus that I got, I'm really happy I purchased it. It's a 1994 International 3700. I don't know how many passengers, 48. I don't know the specs on it. It's a 94 model, so it's 30 years old. It was a retired school bus out of Lawrence County, Mississippi. So I did a little bit of research on Lawrence County, Mississippi. Very rural. You have to be careful with buses, with any fleet vehicle. I always said you'd be crazy to buy a police car, a used police car that was used for uniform patrol purposes. Maybe highway patrol, maybe detectives, maybe administration, but never buy a marked police car that they just peeled the decals off of and sold. You may have one or two that are out there that are like, I always buy fleet vehicles, they're fine. Let me tell you something. As a police officer, I would start my car, and it would run for at least 13 hours, and it would not stop. It would idle, it would go fast, it would go slow, low speed, small town patrolling, all that is hell on an engine. So when you're buying a bus, you have to kind of consider that. There's a lot of stopping and going with a bus. There's a lot of braking, there's a lot of transmission, different levels of transmission demand, if you will. If you live in a hilly or mountainous area, you have to consider other things, like what region of the world did this bus do its job in. If it's a northern bus, it's probably going to have rust, because they salt their roads. They have to. So rust, those of you that are north of the Mason-Dixon line, where y'all have these things called seasons, you're going to have a lot of rust. I mean, some of these buses are just, the bottoms of them are just ate out, the floor pans are ate out, and they're really just scrap. They're really not good for a Skoolie build, in my humble opinion. Somebody can chime in on that if they have a little bit more experience. Now, this was a southern bus. It was from Mississippi, very rural, kind of hilly, but predominantly flat. So my guess is this bus was probably pretty well maintained, didn't have a ton of demand on it. It has a Navistar 444 engine, not a 444E for you diesel guys, a 444E, and I had to educate myself on this because I had no idea. A 444E started in the mid-90s and newer. E means electric or electronic, meaning it's got a bunch of different computer components and things like that. A buddy of mine that I work with, he's a diesel guy, particularly he's a 7.3 guy. A 444 is a 7.3 called a Power Stroke for you Ford guys. Y'all know what I'm talking about, and gals. He told me if it's a 444 and not a 444E and it has 167,000 miles on it, I would be stupid not to buy it, and if I don't buy it, he would. So that kind of made me realize this bus was probably a good buy. Now, I found it on the Facebook Marketplace. That's where I found it at. I looked around at different auctions, different fleet auctions. The problem with an auction is it's usually sight unseen, as is, where is, will it start, who knows. And if you go get a $1,200 bus from an auction, it may be clapped out, and you know they'll tell you, we'll sell you this for $1,200, but you have to close a business today to get it off our lot. So if it doesn't start, you got to go spend $300, $400, $500 on batteries. You got to jump it off. Does it need fluids? Is the engine blown? Now you have to pay a heavy-duty tow truck, which are not cheap. So you're really rolling the dice on auctions. In a lot of cases, not all cases. If you buy an auction vehicle, God bless you, you probably got a really good one. I'm sure it happens. And I'm sure people buy clapped out ones that they inspected well. So I'm not saying don't get one from an auction. I just didn't. The bus that I found, I watched it for about 4 to 5 months on the marketplace. And this bus was posted by someone who bought the bus with the intention of doing what I wanted to do with it, but he never got around to it. Likely story, right? We always think we'll do it one day, we'll do it one day. Well, he and a buddy bought this bus, and it sat for like 2 years, 18 months or so. And they bought it directly from Lawrence County School District. I actually traced the bus back, and I spoke with the school district. I'll get into that a little bit in a second and why I did that. That was a whole other story. So he posted this bus for $5,000. Runs good, no major issues. I'm like, okay. So I put that under my saved column with like 12 other buses I was looking at. I'm like, that's kind of going to be my price range. I don't have $5,000 right now, and I'm definitely not going to go get a loan. So I'm just going to start saving a little bit here and there, and probably after a while, when I have $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, I'll just go pay cash for a bus. Well, lo and behold, the bus never sold. I talked to him a couple of times, and he's like, yeah, I'm really busy with work. You can come look at it at some point. So I never really got around to even going and looking at it, and I noticed after about 2 months scrolling one day, and I saw the same bus, and it said reduced to $4,000. I'm like, okay, you're getting warmer. Someone's going to jump on this deal before me, though. I don't have $4,000 right now that I can throw at it. So I kept saving, kept doing my thing. Lo and behold, about 3-4 weeks later, went down to $3,000. I said, okay, now you're getting in my area. Now you're getting to where I can really start considering purchasing this bus. Started talking about it with my wife. We started discussing it, the ins and outs of everything, and what my plans were, and she was on board with it. Those of you that are married, you know, if your wife's on board with it, that's your golden ticket. So it didn't sell. And about another 2 weeks went by, and it went down to $2,500. Now, this bus posted for $5,000 originally, and it was arguably worth that much. If I would have had 50 crisp $100 bills in my pocket, I probably would have bought the damn thing. I mean, that's kind of where I was approaching this from. Given that it has a 444 engine, all mechanical, so there's less things to go wrong with it. No diesel exhaust fluid. It's a proven powertrain. It also has an Allison transmission, which, not being a guy that hauls stuff or a diesel guy, I knew Allison was a reputable transmission. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about them. I'm not going to pretend like I do. but it's a 444 mechanical with an Allison transmission. So I'm like, okay, it's got the names that I recognize. And my buddy said definitely, if it's not an electric, if it's mechanical, go for it. So when he dropped it down to 2,500, I told my wife I'm ready to pull the trigger. I want this bus. She said, well, let's go look at it. So I messaged the guy and I said, hey, look, I got cash. Are you available? And he's like, yeah. He gave me his address. It was about 25, 30 miles from my house, which is perfect because I want to drive the damn thing, right? I want to see if this thing runs, if it smokes, if there's blow-by, if there's any issues with it shifting. Because again, this thing, not only is it 30 years old, but it's probably been retired for quite some time, and it's been sitting for God knows how long. And those of you that buy used vehicles, y'all know, I mean, you can't really trust the fluids in it. Maybe they filled everything up, they topped everything off. So I went to the guy's house, and red flag, it was idling when I got there. That's a red flag. If y'all are going and buying something, a piece of machinery, a diesel, sometimes diesels are really hard to crank if there's fuel pressure issues and things like that. I pull up and he's standing next to it smiling, and it's idling, purring like a kitten, perfectly smooth, no smoke, no rough idle, nothing. Okay, well, what does that tell me? It tells me it runs, but it doesn't really tell me much else. Because those of you that have dealt with engines, and even small engines, lawnmowers and anything like that, you know sometimes starting these damn things are the hard part. When I used to have a truck when I first started driving to school, I would have to pump the gas to the floor 25 times. Literally, it was an 82 Toyota, 25 times. If I did that, it would start right up. If I pumped it 8 times, it would turn over for like 20 or 30 times, and then it would hesitate. But if I pumped it a whole lot of times, it would start right up. Well, if you're selling a vehicle, you don't want the buyer to see that. So you do all this cosmetic stuff. Anyway, long story short, it was idling. The guy said, look, man, here it is. I wanted to build a Skoolie out of it. I don't have time. I just want to get it off my hands. I've come down a lot on the price, and I'm like, hey, I'm cool with the price, man. I'm not a haggler. If I want to buy something and I think it's worth what you're asking, I'm not going to sit here and spend 30 minutes and piss you off to try to get $75 extra out of you or something. The bus was well worth what he was asking for it. So unless there was something catastrophically wrong with this rig, I wasn't going to get it. So he said, take a look at it. You want to, first thing I did, pop the hood. I looked for leaks. I looked for puddles underneath it. I looked for smoke. I listened for exhaust leaks, any crazy smells or anything like that. Other than burning diesel, I didn't really smell anything. I took off the oil cap, no blow-by, no smoke anywhere, no blue smoke. It didn't seem like it was flooding. It was idling smooth. So I'm like, all right, where can I drive this thing? And he's like, you can drive it up and down the neighborhood all you want. Now, keep in mind, this bus is not registered. It is not insured, okay? He had a photo of the title. Not a photocopy, a photo on his phone, and he texted it to me. I'm going to get into that in a second. So I drove the bus up and down the neighborhood. I got it up to 30-ish miles an hour, shifted fine. I wanted it. Like the inner child in me is like, yes, this is my machine. This is what I want. The body was in excellent shape. Excellent. No rust. Zero dents. How the hell do you drive a bus on a school route in rural Mississippi and never hit a post or a cattle gate or get in a fender bender? I mean, this thing had no body work done to it. There was no rust. Oops, excuse me. And there was no dents. So I'm like, okay, there's my body work right there, right? I knew I was going to paint it and all that, but so I'm like, man, unless this thing just explodes right here, I'm pretty much going to buy it. So I hand the guy $25 $100 bills, and he said, here's the thing, I don't have a title. Okay, well, here's where the BS starts. Y'all, get a title. Get a title. If I lost you, come back to me. Get a title, okay? I should have my ass kicked for doing what I did, but I figured there was a way I could get around it, and luckily I rolled the dice and I was right. He said, my buddy and I are welders. He's traveling in Texas. He has the title with him. He's going to mail it to me. I mean, we set up this whole elaborate deal. He's going to get the title to me. He's going to sign the back, and I can just go get it put in my name. Now, I'm getting, in my opinion, a hell of a deal on this rig, so I'm like, you know what? I trust this guy enough. And we shook hands, and he texted me a photocopy of the title. And I know y'all that are from different states, every state's a little bit different. Some states you can't do stuff like this in. Other states you can. I have bought a boat in Alabama and brought it back home to Louisiana. And between Alabama and Louisiana, it was insane. Alabama, you can basically write down something on a piece of toilet paper and sign it, and it's binding. In Louisiana, not so much. That's a whole other story. So I get this bus, and I thought about putting a 24-hour ferry insurance policy on it to drive it home, and I didn't. Okay, I rolled the dice and I won, and that's immature. I should not have done that. I'm in my 40s. I'm not a kid. That's something a teenager would have done. But I said, you know what? I bought this thing on the fly. I really don't, you know what? I live about 20 miles. I took back roads. So my wife followed me, and I drove it about 20 miles home, 25-ish miles. And the whole way I was driving home, I was testing all the features out. Unfortunately, the fuel gauge didn't work. I've got to get that fixed. But he gave me his word. It was full of fuel and has been for a long time. Don't know how old the fuel is. You know, I checked the oil. We shut it down, checked the oil, checked the tranny fluid, all that. Made sure it wasn't running hot. Made sure it had coolant. So we were good on fluids. So driving it home, I was able to test the shifting out. I floored it. I was able to drive it, you know, at high speeds. The brakes were fine. It didn't pull to one side or the other. So I drove this thing home Beverly Hillbilly style. No registration, no insurance. I do not recommend that. Please don't do that, and I shouldn't have done it. So all you legal experts that want to chime in, yes, I would have got a hefty ticket, and I would have paid it and lived my life, and we all would have survived. So I made it home. So I got home with it, and everything's been fine. Y'all have seen my previous video. If you haven't, look at the one before this. Kind of shows you my progress so far. But I want to go into what I have into this bus. And right before I do that, y'all remember I said a second ago, old boy gave me a picture of the title. Well, this is what went down with that, and this is what's going to go down with you every time you don't get a title. I don't know why people don't handle their damn business, but people will buy stuff from a buddy and they'll take care of it later, and their buddy moves or whatever. I don't have the damn title to the bus. So I texted the guy the next day. I'm like, hey man, look, your boy's mailing the title, right? Because I can meet up anytime. You know, you tell me the time and place, I will come to you. I'll pay for the transfer. You know, I feel like if you're buying something, it's on you to pay for all the tax, title, and license. Like the seller is not, you know, that's just how it's supposed to be. So he's like, yeah man, he's mailing it to me. Well, like 3 days go by, I haven't heard anything, so I reach out to him. Let me check with him and see. Never heard anything. 2 or 3 days later, hey bro, look, I'm not trying to nag you, but I really want to get this thing off your hands, and I really want to get it transferred over. So at this point, I'm getting kind of annoyed, and it's my own fault. It's my own fault. I'm mad at me, not him, because you can't trust people. Once I gave this guy the money and got that bus off his property, he couldn't give a flip what happened after that. And part of me doesn't blame him, you know. This idiot's willing to buy it without a title. That's on him. So I back and forth with him. I say, look, man, if you can mail it to me, like I will Venmo you money to overnight it to me, something, you know. Excuse me. Luckily in Louisiana, we have a law in our motor vehicle code, and most states probably have this. So you people in different states outside of Louisiana, y'all probably have something similar. It's called an affidavit of abandoned vehicle. It's really similar with boats too. You can go through the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. If someone sells you a boat with no title, I think they've kind of tightened up on it a little bit in recent years. But we have so many floods and hurricanes and things like that boats just get abandoned. People just, you know, people get sick or they pass away and their family don't want to deal with it. So you'll have a boat just sitting docked somewhere and no one really has any paperwork to it. Same thing with motor vehicles. So we have what's called an affidavit of abandoned vehicle. And what that says is I can go to a notary and I can swear or affirm on a sheet of paper that I came across this vehicle in good faith. For whatever reason, I don't have paperwork to it. Maybe it was found somewhere in the woods. I mean, if you find an old 68 Camaro, in the bushes somewhere and no one claims it and no one really knows who it is and you can't find the VIN, you can do an affidavit of abandoned vehicle. What happens is you have to have a witness stating that this vehicle was abandoned. You know, I had my wife with me when she bought it. She knows the situation. So this vehicle is going to be considered abandoned for legal purposes. And you sign this affidavit, your witness signs the affidavit, it goes off to the Louisiana Office of Motor Vehicles. And with that affidavit, you can register the vehicle in your name. It will be titled to you. But you have to wait 1 calendar year before you physically get the title in hand. Now, it'll be registered to you. You can insure it. You can drive it. It is by all accounts your vehicle. But if I wanted to sell this bus, hypothetically, I would have to wait at least a calendar year after that affidavit before I can get a physical title in my hand. And the reason for that is it gives anyone who may have lost this vehicle or got it stolen from them and it never got reported stolen, it basically gives that person a year to find you and find the bus and say, hey, wait a minute, that's my bus. Okay? And that's not going to happen in my case. I've almost reached the year mark. I just got it in February and we're almost in November. So... And that's going to cost a few $100. So we're going to call that a stupid tax on my part. But bottom line, get a damn title. If the person says, well, you have to file for a lost title. No, you file for a lost title. You're the one that's selling it. It is your responsibility to rightfully pass this vehicle on to me. You're selling it to me. I'm buying it. Now you sign the damn thing over to me. And my advice is, if you find a bus or any other type of vehicle that you're looking for, there's other buses like this, y'all. I could have found another one that had the title. As a matter of fact, I was about to buy one for $1,000 more, and the guy had a title in hand, and he had already taken the seats out. I was going to buy that bus, and he sold it the morning of. And I said, I totally understand. I'm going to go get this other bus. So, bottom line, I got a $2,500 bus. Okay? So, that leads me to the build cost. My goal, my limit I put on it. I have a spreadsheet in front of me. I don't know how to project shit on the screen yet, so y'all forgive me. So I'm going to read from this. My original limit that I put on myself was $15,000. From $0 to $15,000, my plan is to have a completely furnished motor coach. I'm talking bedroom, flooring, electrical run through it with a 30 amp shore plug, a generator suspended underneath, all the exterior work done, everything stripped down and debadged and painted. I've already done all that. Those of you that saw my previous video, I just got it painted. I'm super excited about that. I have a couple of more fine-tuning things on the exterior, but I'm pretty much done with the exterior, and we're about to start the build out on the inside. That's the exciting part, because that's when you personalize it and make it into your floor plan that works for you. So the build cost, bus, $2,500. So I'm $2,500 deep by just purchasing the bus. I put an LED headlight conversion on it. That was $40. I put LED cab lights on it. That was another $40. I'm rounding these prices up, by the way, y'all. A lot of this is like 37, 34. I'm just saying 40 just for the sake of rounding a little bit up, just in case I miss a few dollars here and there. I put some LED fender turn signals on it. Those were $35. I didn't have to do that, but it looks pretty. Window tint. I tinted 54 windows on the bus for $100. It was actually about 84, but I just put 100 to be generic. I went on Amazon and I wanted to tint all the windows 20%. So I went and got this big bulk roll on Amazon. I measured the top and bottom windows of all the side windows. I got that measurement and I made sure to get a roll that was like 2 inches more than that. That way I would have enough width-wise, I guess, to do the top and the bottom windows. So I tinted every window in the bus for $100. Body filler, I did spend about $75. I got a gallon of Bondo and I did some fiberglass work on it. When I removed all the warning lights, those of you that follow me on Instagram or Facebook, y'all saw that. I actually took all the lights out and I welded sheet metal in all the emergency or the indicator lights at the top to take all that out because I want to erase all. No one claims it and no one really knows who it is, and you can't find the VIN. You can do an affidavit of abandoned vehicle. What happens is you have to have a witness stating that this vehicle was abandoned. You know, I had my wife with me when she bought it. She knows the situation. So this vehicle is going to be considered abandoned for legal purposes. And you sign this affidavit, your witness signs the affidavit, it goes off to the Louisiana Office of Motor Vehicles. And with that affidavit, you can register the vehicle in your name. It will be titled to you. But you have to wait 1 calendar year before you physically get the title in hand. Now, it'll be registered to you. You can insure it. You can drive it. It is by all accounts your vehicle. But if I wanted to sell this bus, hypothetically, I would have to wait at least a calendar year after that affidavit before I can get a physical title in my hand. And the reason for that is it gives anyone who may have lost this vehicle or got it stolen from them and it never got reported stolen, it basically gives that person a year to find you and find the bus and say, hey, wait a minute, that's my bus. Okay? And that's not going to happen in my case. I've almost reached the year mark. I just got it in February and we're almost in November. So, and that's going to cost a few $100. So we're going to call that a stupid tax on my part. But bottom line, get a damn title. If the person says, well, you have to file for a lost title. No, you file for a lost title. You're the one that's selling it. It is your responsibility to rightfully pass this vehicle on to me. You're selling it to me. I'm buying it. Now you sign the damn thing over to me. And my advice is, if you find a bus or any other type of vehicle that you're looking for, there's other buses like this, y'all. I could have found another one that had the title. As a matter of fact, I was about to buy one for $1,000 more, and the guy had a title in hand and he had already taken the seats out. I was going to buy that bus and he sold it the morning of, and I said, I totally understand. I'm going to go get this other bus. So bottom line, I got a $2,500 bus. Okay, so that leads me to the build cost. My goal, my limit I put on it. I have a spreadsheet in front of me. I don't know how to project shit on the screen yet, so y'all forgive me. So I'm going to read from this. My original limit that I put on myself was $15,000. From $0 to $15,000, my plan is to have a completely furnished motor coach. I'm talking bedroom, flooring, electrical run through it with a 30 amp shore plug, a generator suspended underneath, all the exterior work done, everything stripped down and debadged and painted. I've already done all that. Those of you that saw my previous video, I just got it painted. I'm super excited about that. I have a couple of more fine-tuning things on the exterior, but I'm pretty much done with the exterior, and we're about to start the build out on the inside. That's the exciting part, because that's when you personalize it and make it into your floor plan that works for you. So the build cost, bus, $2,500. So I'm $2,500 deep by just purchasing the bus. I put an LED headlight conversion on it. That was $40. I put LED cab lights on it. That was another $40. I'm rounding these prices up, by the way, y'all. A lot of this is like 37, 34. I'm just saying 40 just for the sake of rounding a little bit up, just in case I miss a few dollars here and there. I put some LED fender turn signals on it. Those were $35. I didn't have to do that, but it looks pretty. Window tint. I tinted 54 windows on the bus for $100. It was actually about 84, but I just put 100 to be generic. I went on Amazon and I wanted to tint all the windows 20%. So I went and got this big bulk roll on Amazon. I measured the top and bottom windows of all the side windows. I got that measurement and I made sure to get a roll that was like 2 inches more than that. That way I would have enough width-wise, I guess, to do the top and the bottom windows. So I tinted every window in the bus for $100. Body filler, I did spend about $75. I got a gallon of Bondo and I did some fiberglass work on it. When I removed all the warning lights, those of you that follow me on Instagram or Facebook, y'all saw that. I actually took all the lights out and I welded sheet metal in all the emergency or the indicator lights at the top to take all that out because I want to erase all. Insulate your floor. You do you. I'm going to insulate it, but I'm not going to go overboard. The second reason I'm not going to go overboard is because I'm 6 foot tall. When I stand up inside this bus, the top of my hair touches the ceiling. So when I start putting 4 inches of foam board and, you know, all this unicorn hearts and all that y'all put insulating, I'm going to have to duck. I'm going to be walking like this because I'm not doing a roof raise. So I'm going to put regular insulation back in the ceiling. The insulation was in decent shape, but I ripped all that out because buses are disgusting and I just want fresh, nice insulation up there. But just we're about to wrap up, y'all. But I mean, the interior build out, I'm gonna get a roll of residential electrical wiring. I'm gonna wire it up. Everything's gonna have 110 plugs. I'm gonna put a regular residential toilet. I'm gonna go to Home Depot and get a porcelain toilet to put in my bus. I'm not gonna get a Nature's Head, these composting toilets, RV toilets with a little foot pump. I'm not doing that, y'all. I'm gonna sit on a throne that's gonna be made out of porcelain, just like I have in my house. It's cheaper, it's easy to maintain, it has its pros and cons. But again, being in the South, our poop don't freeze in the South, y'all. I know a lot of people are like, well, you're gonna regret that because you know, your black water tank's gonna freeze. Again, that's a bridge I'll burn if and when I get there. But I don't feel like paying $800 to pee in a bucket and poop in a bucket and stir cedar chips with. I don't. You Nature's Head composting toilet people, more power to you. I know it's good for you. This is my build. It's not good for me. I'm gonna poop in a porcelain toilet, and I'm gonna have a black water tank directly underneath it, under the bus. And I'm going to have a fresh water tank. I have an 80-gallon fresh water tank already that was gifted to me by someone who took their, that was destroying a travel trailer. So I have the plumbing for that. I also have a black water tank and a gray water tank as well. But I'm going to have a fresh water supply. And look, we're not going to live on this bus. This thing is going to be taking us places here and there. We're not going to use it a ton at this stage in our life. We may use it a lot more later, hopefully. But it's not like we're going to be living in this thing. We're not going to be just putting hundreds of gallons of human waste into a tank. So for us, for now, a regular toilet is going to do. Regular sink, regular shower, and we're going to put a king-size bed in the back. I already have the mattress, and so all I have to do is build the frame for that. We have a bed. I'm going to have puck lights in the ceiling going all the way down with individual switches. Living area, probably gonna put maybe a sofa fold out bed, flat screen, of course. We're gonna save as much space as we can, a little bit of counter space with a sink and a wood burning stove, and it's gonna be very basic. So I don't see that costing anywhere near $11,000. You know, I mean, a lot of this stuff, a lot of stuff I get second hand. I've got spare 2x4s from, I remodeled my kitchen earlier this year. I probably have enough 2x4s to split in half into 2x2s because these are going to be non-load bearing walls anyway to save weight. I probably have enough studs to frame out the inside now. I'm probably going to put just a regular composite roll-out floor that has kind of a wood look to it. I'm not going to lay down a floating hard plank. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to roll out something that can be easily swept and mopped, and that's what we're going to do. And I'm really excited. I think it's going to look great. But that's where I'm at. I'm just under $4,000 into this build, and I bought the bus with that, and I have the exterior done. So that is where we're at. And I haven't really showed a whole bunch of bus videos in the last week or so. I still got about another 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe more than that, about 4 weeks of just killing it at my different jobs. So you're going to see more of that soon on the bus. But for right now, I just kind of wanted to give everybody a kind of an informational video session. If you're thinking about doing something like this, I've had several people reach out to me and said, you got us wanting to do it. Y'all, it's very, very I don't want to say it's easy. I've got several hundred hours of hard labor into this bus already. So I'll sit here and brag to you about how little money I got tied up in it, but let me tell you, I've lost a lot of electrolytes sweating in that bus this summer. I've worked my tail off, and I'm not even close to where I need. I have at least another year of hard work on this bus. So it's very labor intensive. It's not easy, but it is fun. It's hard work, but it's work you're going to enjoy doing. If you're a couple that want to do something like this, freaking go for it. Quit waiting. Oh, well, after this, after we get that paid off, you know what? Read the obituaries in the paper. Those people thought they had time too. So that's as morbid as I'm going to get. But yeah, you've got to go in and do this. Don't wait around for it. If you have questions you want to ask me, reach out to me. I'm not an expert on it. This is the first diesel engine I've ever owned in my life. So I'm a beginner. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you something if I don't know it, but I think what I have is a solid rig. I guess we'll see. And look, the whole point of it is, I made a comment in a previous video of a guy that kind of made fun of me and said, people like y'all that kind of finagle these buses together, y'all are a bunch of Harbor Freight hippies that don't know what you're doing. Maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. But the whole point of a budget build like this, for people that can't spend 6 figures on a motor coach, if you can spend 15, 20,000, I want to put some solar in this thing. I really think I can finish this thing for 15,000 with a full solar setup. I really think I can. And I may end up doing that because I want to be off grid if I can. Of course, I want to be able to plug into the grid. But if we pull over at a truck stop, I want to be able to run my TV in my shower and be able to rest on the side of the road at a rest area and not have to worry about plugging in somewhere. So like I said, it's not for everybody, but you definitely need to do it. But back to my point, and I'll let y'all go. I'll let you go like you're here against your will. The whole point of having a budget build is having money in the bank in case something is going to break down. It's a 30-year-old bus. Something's going to break down. Wheel bearings, you get flat tires. A roadside tire change, if you have to call road service, it's going to cost you $800. For a service truck to come out with a little crane with a new tire and put it on the rim on the side of the road and inflate it for you and get you going, you're going to spend $800 or $1,000. It's expensive. RVs, by the way, are expensive. So my argument to the RV people who hate on the Skoolie community is, what do? Because obviously your Holiday Rambler or your Winnebago breaks down at some point. I mean, it's not, it's not a unicorn. It's going to break down. The oil seal's going to blow on it. Your air brakes are going to get a leak. You're going to need tires. Tires dry rot. RVs sit up. People don't use RVs every day. The tires dry rot. So, these problems happen whether it's a Skoolie or a Winnebago. So, we can argue all day long which one's more durable or which one's more expensive. But the whole point is, you need to have a few $1,000s sitting. I'm not going to take this thing anywhere unless I have at least $3,000 or $4,000 just sitting there growing. Because if my engine blows and I'm in the middle of Tucson, Arizona in the desert, I'm screwed. I'm going to have this thing towed. If you've ever had a heavy-duty truck towed, it's expensive. You need to have a AAA membership for a fleet, for a commercial vehicle, so a tow fee doesn't hit you and just gut your savings. You need to have this set to the side. You can't just go blindly and fill this thing up with diesel and just drive. You've got to be prepared for the inevitable breakdown. So that kind of comes with a budget build like this. It's not a brand new bus. It'll probably give me several years of trouble-free. Who knows? I may never have to do a ton of heavy maintenance on it, but count on it because it's going to happen. And you don't want to be caught. Warren Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you can see who's been skinny dipping. You need to make sure you have extra money put aside for those things. So, how far are we? Oh, God, this is 40 minutes. I got to get off here. But, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I appreciate y'all watching. And more to follow. I'm going to do another video on the bus to kind of show everybody where I'm at and what I've done so far. Thanks for tuning in to Country Bussin'.